Are just going to have to pick it up.
Except when this driver fell over in the shower, so did one of his teammates in the same shower at the same time, which is possibly not a picture I should have conjured up this early in the morning. But yeah, we had a similar situation a few years ago. In fact, with by college, Doran, one of their drivers, vaulting over the pit wall, tripped and injured himself and couldn't get in the car. So they were down to 2 drivers, and there was a maximum driver time. And when they got to the end of that was it. Shutters down. Because it was race day, it was too late to get anybody else qualified in the car. If he'd done it in Tuesday or Wednesday, fallen off a bicycle or fallen down the stairs, they could have got somebody else qualified in the car. They had nobody else qualified, and so there was no way of putting any. There was no Control-Alt-Delete in that situation. So the other 2 drivers raced as long as they could, and then the driver's seat was empty and they had to park the car. So yeah, in the real world, as in the virtual world, things get in the way, and the most bizarre situations can really mess you up. Now, what about the red flag situation? All the cars are on the grid. We had 4 cars on the lead lap. Now, they were separated by getting on for 3.5 minutes, which is pretty much a lap. Now they're going to be separated by 3.5 inches or feet or whatever, meters, because they're going to be nose to tail as they go off behind the safety car. So for the #1 Williams Rebellion car, that's a tough break, because they had built up a full pit stop worth of advantage, so 48.9, 50 seconds, over their closest rival, which at the time was the #13 Williams. Their closest rival now is going to be our pole sitters. We're inside the final 4 hours of the race. The pole car is going to restart in 2nd place, nose to tail with the current leaders. So we've got at minimum 4 hours to go and a 4-car battle for the lead. This could be really, really entertaining.
That's racing, it's tough as a leader when that happens to you, but you've just got to accept that and just take the situation and run with it, really. Look, as a neutral, this is just the kind of thing you want to see, isn't it? You want to see the top 4 cars all on the same lap fighting for the lead going into the final 4 hours. What I will say is, people will think this is all very harsh on Kuba Brzezinski and the Rebellion Williams team. Let's not forget that they built up that lead on their own accord. So there is no reason why they can't go and do that again. However, they have the pole sitters just behind them, the Bicolis team, who have been very, very quick. And as we know, any time the Bicolis team have had an issue and have been put down the order, they've come back again. And guess what now? They do owe us a pit stop, but there they are in 2nd place, right behind. They can almost reach out and touch Kuba Brzezinski virtually, I say. But Jesper Pedersen has got a real good chance here to get the Bicolis team into the lead. And then, of course, when he has that pit stop, he's going to have to try and get that work done again. But I'd say that would be Pedersen's tactic, try and disrupt what we have between the 2 Rebellion cars. But we have 2 teammates out front there, Martin, and I'm sure the engineers are going to be on the phone to each other or on Discord to each other, trying to think of a strategy now.
We just saw our BWT safety car driver here in the studio in Place de la Concorde. We are under safety car conditions. We are about to set the race back underway. We're going to try and catch up with Alan and Seb McNish, Seb Prio at home shortly, but let's catch up with Alan McNish first. He's got, it seems, is there no end to his former teammates that he's going to interview this weekend?
Well, here with 2013 world champion, 2013 Le Mans winner, ex-teammate Loic Duval. First of all, Loic, happy birthday, by the way. I hear it was your birthday on Friday. What age are you now? Are you going to tell us, or are you keeping that one a secret?
No, I mean, I'm 38, just turned 38, so thank you very much.
You're just a little boy then, little boy. We had Tom on earlier on, so that makes me feel still pretty good. Now, joking apart, and how's things been with you? Because I know you've been testing for DTM last week, but also preparing for coming back for racing and looking towards September in Le Mans?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I mean, it's been a long break for all of us. Unfortunately, 3 weeks ago, I broke my collarbone, so the training in DTM last weekend was not so easy, but we've still been able to do so. And yeah, things are going according to plan now. Finger crossed that everything starts as it is planned. And yeah, just going back to normal racing, unfortunately, with not with the fans on the track for the moment, but looking forward to the races anyway, and looking forward also to Le Mans in September. That's going to be another challenge for everybody involved.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure from your point of view as well, getting back there, getting onto the circuit, that I know because you were born not so far away from Le Mans, so it's not just because you're French, but because it's so local and important as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, since I'm a kid, I drove in the go-kart racetrack over there. Then I've been in Le Mans for many years. I start my car racing career with La Filière, which is based in Le Mans. So yeah, a lot of souvenirs in Le Mans, which are pretty positive. With the highlight, which has been the win with you guys in 2013.
Yeah. Well, tell me one thing. What's your sort of view on all of this virtual world and real world? We've just been speaking to Andre earlier on, Andre Lotterer, who clearly you know, and Andre was saying from a driving point of view, he's actually doing all of the same things in the virtual race that he would do in the real race.
Yeah, I think everything are getting closer. I mean, you try to when you try to get the best out of it, I think you get close to what's happening in reality. I think the feeling is still not 100% the same, but for sure, I mean, I was listening what he was saying, and definitely, to be up to speed, to be up to the rhythm in terms of strategy and what to do in the car. I think the sim is really helping the new generation of drivers, to be up to performance for all those things, with the switches on the steering and stuff like that, what to do when the tires are cold, being able to communicate with your engineer. This is something that we didn't have in the past. And for sure, I mean, I can imagine that's a massive help for the drivers who don't know these kind of races and stuff like that, to be up to speed much quicker than what it took to us in the past.
And tell me, you said you had broken your collarbone. When is that going to be absolutely okay for the next race?
Yeah, I mean, I've been testing last week at Nürburgring, and I've been able to do some long runs and also short runs. So it's looking good. I mean, for sure, we did do some stuff with the Hans device, not to have the pressure on the collarbone, but at least I'm feeling good now.
Well, all I can say is that I remember the last time when we raced at Le Mans 13, you were definitely the fastest guy through Tetra Rouge I have ever seen in my life. We were doing a lap earlier on in the simulator just to talk about the circuit, and Tetra Rouge, the momentum through there was absolutely incredible. So I'm sure we're looking forward now to say to all the fans at home, get yourself to Tetra Rouge in qualifying when Loic's out in September, and you'll see a car absolutely on the limit. Until then, Loic, say hi to everyone at home, and I'll see you later on.
Have fun, guys. Ciao.
Thank you as ever to Loic Duval. All those Le Mans trophies on the shelf in the background. They're not easily earned, are they? He and Alan McNish know all about that. And anybody who takes away one of the 24-hour miniature trophies from this weekend, they are exactly the same as they will be presented in September, as they were presented in June last year and the year before and the year before. Miniature replicas of the big trophy. They are going to be very hard earned, aren't they? We're under starters orders. We are behind our BWT safety car. By the way, our safety car driver, Olivier Lombard, former race driver, and his father owns famous Parisian hotspot, the Moulin Rouge. Olivier Lombard won Le Mans in LMP2 in 2011. So he has got previous with this track, and race director Eduardo Freitas tells me that he's likely to be the first now of 3 safety car laps to allow Motorsport Games to make sure that everybody is fully logged on, to get the drivers back into the frame of things and to get ready to go. So first of 3 safety car laps. We're inside the final 4 hours of the 24 hours of Le Mans Virtual, and we get going once more after our red flag. I didn't note the time at the start of it, so I'll have to rely on somebody else to tell me how long that red flag was. But again, this is going to be very important for the teams and the drivers, because it is another period that does not count either towards your maximum driver time or towards completing the minimum. Had a little conversation off air with Andy Prio. Neither he nor Seb have completed their 4-hour minimum driving time, and the steering wheel on the rig they're using in Guernsey has spat the dummy out. The display has gone and they've got an error message. It's possibly not error 404, but they've got an error message in the game on their screen. So their drivers, their teammates, having done the nighttime stint while they were trying to get the thing sorted out, are now going to have to do the heavy lifting for the rest of the race. And just indebted to those of you that are shouting at your screens to Graham Goodwin from Daily Sportscast for reminding me that in 2007, when Doran almost successfully vaulted the Le Mans pit wall, there were not maximum driver time. So in fact, Charles Voltzmann Jr. and Andre Lotterer drove the whole race and finished 7th in that by Collet's car. So, well, Alan McNish is now saying there were.
No,
so I'm not getting involved in
maximum driver time was 14 hours
for
40, anyone,
right,
so you could split it into 2.
Yeah.
You had to have 3 drivers at the scrutineering, but ultimately in a case like this, you could quite easily do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, that isn't the best way to actually do it.
No.
But yeah, they sort of did a lot of heavy lifting, that one. I remember him trying to vault it as well. Yeah. And he's not gone to the Olympics for that particular part of the sport.
Yeah, and next time he plays tennis, he'll presumably just shake hands with with the other player. Yeah, that was one of the more bizarre incidents. This H24 car, Project H24, the only emission from this car is drinkable water, as Pierre Fion demonstrated to us in our World Endurance Fast Talk podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's taken part in free practice sessions in the Michelin Le Mans Cup last year, and they plan to race it in 2020's series. Of course, that is slightly truncated and delayed. And all of that is powered by a portable hydrogen unit that will be brought to each of the European Le Mans Series races by Total, who have worked with the World Endurance Championship, the ELMS management, and also with the ACO to get this project off the ground. ACO definitely looking towards Project 24 being the Garage 56. There's too many numbers in this. The Garage 56 entry at Le Mans as early as 2022, hoping to have it ready, raceable as a full hydrogen entry. So we're waiting to get the race underway. Competition director Cedric Viat with his back towards us. And we may not be entirely incident-free. Whether that is a driver glitch on the 62 Ferrari, I was right the first time, not that often happens, or whether that is a problem with their rig or another internal problem in the game, not entirely sure. There's a view our safety car driver has.
That's Aurélien Mallet. Actually, we've got a couple, haven't we? And he's a Red Bull esports driver competing in the Le Mans esports series.
And the reason we have a couple of safety car drivers is not because it's so exhausting driving the safety car, but it's actually quite tiring sitting in the sim rig for hours on end, being ready to drive the safety car. And that's what we've had. Our safety car drivers have been in the rig for the entire race so far and not had much time to start. He's got a rather attractive kind of almost BWT coloured cardigan on there, or is that just a trick of the light? Pierre Fion in the background there, talking with Cedric Viat. Richard Mille as well, who's on the FIA's Endurance Commission and has his own dog in this fight. He's got the Richard Mille team.
That's Jesper.
And that is Jesper Pedersen. You can see it's a bright and sunny day outside. And you can see he hasn't got much of an isolation tan, has he? I think we know what he's been doing, and it's not being sunbathing. Out front is our race leader, the number, in fact it's not, there has been a change for the lead before the red flag. The number 93 Porsche, you saw Risto Capet there, he is not leading. No, he is. Now that's changed around again. It was Risto Capet who was the leader. That was Josh Rogers, who has, when I looked at the timing screen, the Porsche wasn't leading. The number 80 Corvette was, but now the Porsche is back. The timing screen has caught up with the real world. Looking at Bruno Senna as well. Bruno back in the Rebellion Williams number 2 car. And
still a few hours, isn't it?
Well, it is a long race for everybody, isn't it? And Bruno, once we get back to racing, that adrenaline level will come right back up again. So now, I was also having a conversation. I'm waiting for confirmation. We look like we've got problems with car number 18, Veloce Esport car number 3. but I was waiting for confirmation, which I haven't had verbally, but on our timing screen, back in the race is car number 20, the team red line entry that had Max Verstappen and Lando Norris in it. The team had applied to see whether they could get back in the race to at least try and finish, which of course is everybody's first deal at Le Mans. You want to finish the 24 hours, having spent so much time and effort. And as we had with Fernando Alonso Rubens Barrichello's car in the last red flag, the entire game is reset when the server crashes and is reset. And so that allows race direction to put the car back in the race. So it is Archie Kirchhoff at the wheel. He was at the wheel when the car was retired several hours ago. And so in 29th place, the last of the LMP2 field, and a number of laps behind, 17 laps off the lead he should be, is the number 20 team red line car. Looking at Kamui Kobayashi racing in Japan. And, you know, for the Europeans who are at home, that's one thing. For the Japanese who are at home racing this, that's quite a different thing, because the time of day, of course, is completely wrong. Safety car is out at Le Mans as we get the 24 hours of Le Mans virtual back underway after a second red flag period. And coming into the pits is the 52 Ferrari. It does look as though they may have an issue. 18 Veloce Esport 3 car with an issue as well. And who's in the 52 Ferrari? It's right down at the tail of the field. That's David Tonizzo, one of their sim racing pros. Is in the pit lane. It's not the only car in the pit lane either. Who else is in? Dane Cameron for Team Penske is in. And still no sign of car number 18, the Veloce Esports 3 car, moving on track. Seems to be stopped in sector 2. Well, just to reset the race, we were in the middle of a pit stop sequence for our top four. Top four LMP2 cars are on the lead lap. Car number 1 from Rebellion Williams leads. Car number 13 from Rebellion Williams in second. Car number 4 by College, the pole sitters, in third. And car number 33, 2C's Motorsport, that car in fourth place. Although the timing is now, live timing showing that as not on the lead lap. I thought it was still on the lead lap. We'll have to wait until we actually go green. Chris is not entirely convinced about that, are you, Chris McCarthy?
No, well, no, because he was being shown as 4 minutes behind. So I'd say he wasn't quite registering as a lap down on the timing screen yet, but I believe that Al Khalifa was a lap behind, but that'll all be confirmed. Either way, 3 or 4 cars fighting for the lead. Whichever one is going to be fantastic to have our top 3 fighting for the spots on the podium going into the final 3.5 hours would be great.
Felipe Albuquerque there, driving for United Autosports. Nothing too unusual there, but look at the logo on his shirt. Normally, he'll be racing a Ligier. This weekend, they are racing the rival Oreca chassis. So this may be telling them a bit about the car. Formerly racing a Ligier, now they have changed to the Oreca chassis, of course. Yes, that's right. He's got an old spec T-shirt on, so that should
but United are also the Ligier importer into the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I think they were. I think that all might have fallen apart a little bit. Who's that in the Merc in the USA? Is that us, Juan Pablo Montoya, is it?
Yep.
Is it? It's
yes.
What's the time now? 11 o'clock in the morning.
5 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's 5:20.
Yeah, so still dark outside. And again, you know, it's the same with Kamui Kobayashi we just saw in Japan. It's, you know, nearly midnight there, or certainly sort of 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So it's dark outside his window, and it's sort of barely lunchtime at Le Mans. So this is very, very freaky to be racing Le Mans, not in a real car anyway, but at the wrong time of day. you know, for a lot of these drivers, it's starting at night and finishing at night. That's wrong. And when it's light outside, it's dark on your screen. That's wrong too.
Yes, very confusing.
Yes.
It's like when you do when we're doing the long stints on commentary and you walk out and all of a sudden it's turned dark.
Well, you know, and because we're in a lit studio, it is like being in a casino in Vegas, isn't it? You know, it's perma daylight or nearly. You've got no idea what's going on unless somebody comes in soaking wet. Then you've got no idea what the weather's doing at all. One thing we can see is lots of blue sky, very high, thin, wispy cloud over Le Mans, so I don't think anything is going to come out of that in the final 3 hours and 40 minutes, but we will have to wait and see. From Monaco, Giancarlo Fisichella driving for Strong Together team. Giancarlo sharing with Francesco Castellacci, Felipe Massa and Tony Mella. And,
they're based in the Automobile Club of Monaco, which is right on the start and finish line for the Grand Prix track for this particular event.
And Giancarlo Fisichella picked up a penalty on his outlap on his first stint, so the real world and the virtual world very much mingling there. Giancarlo does have a habit of attracting the attention of the race stewards in the real world. And, not necessarily always for being a fun guy to be around. Kamui Kobayashi in the centre, Juan Pablo Montoya on the right-hand side. So you've got Grand Prix racers and Indy winners, Le Mans winners, all sorts of different backgrounds. And that extends all the way through the sim racing field as well. The sim racing drivers have favoured platforms, favoured forms of racing, just like real racing drivers do. You know, okay, you know,
the lead car, please.
Probably still going to have a favourite car that you drive in one of the platforms and a favourite way of going racing. So the sim and the real world are the same.
Ils sont encore à Indianapolis. On va faire ça à Arnage. Ça prendra 10 secondes de plus.
So Eduardo giving instructions on the radio to the team and also to the safety car driver.
Information to the pit lane. Safety cars will be coming in at the end of this lap. Safety cars will be coming in at the end of this lap. No overtaking before you cross the line. No overtaking before you cross the line. Any penalties concerning behavior behind safety car and resuming the safety car will be given by race control. Please ignore the automatic penalties for safety car violations.
Well, still no sign of car number 18, the Veloce Esport car moving.
Please close the gaps. We're spotting some big gaps on the pack. Please close the gaps.
Oh, that is a monster Zoom call going on there on the left-hand side, isn't it? Yes, mute your microphone, please. I'm sure that's bringing all sorts of workday horrors back to an awful lot of people they don't need on a Sunday morning. But that is just a small selection of the drivers who are competing. So Tom Lartilleur in the number 18 Veloce Esports car, still shown as stopped in sector 2, so they have definitely got an issue. Juan Pablo Montoya's been in and out of the pit lane for Team Penske. Pit lane is open, but you've got to get in and get out before the safety car queue comes around. There's plenty of time at the speed that they're doing at the moment to do that. And everybody closing back up. Enzo Benito being in and out of the pits in the 52 Ferrari as well, so he is back out, catching up with the safety car queue. And it is Kuba Brzezinski in the lead Williams, Rebellion Williams machine, who is our race leader. Now, they restart in the order in which cars got to the line, so it is not all LMP2 and all GTE. The safety cars are in the pit lane. Kuba Brzezinski, Jack Aitken, Jesper Pedersen, the top three, but there is a GT fly in the ointment as we go racing. Also, I wondered when the Bicolis car was going to have to come in for fuel. The answer is right now. Jesper Pedersen peels in behind the safety cars into the pits as Kuba Brzezinski gets us back underway. And I figure that was at least another 30 minutes of safety car. So we're going to have to get official confirmation on that. And I may well get that from our friends at IDEX Sport in a moment or two, because all the engineers need to know exactly that. Meanwhile, we are back to green flag racing with just a whisker over 3.5 hours of the 24 Hours Le Mans Virtual to go, Alan.
Yeah, and this is Pierre Gasly we're on board with, but the car up ahead that's just overtaken into the S's is actually the 6th place Rougier. And so this is battle for 6th and 7th right now. Gasly's right in the middle of it. Actually, this is 5th, 6th and 7th as well, because within all the traffic there at the start going through the S's, Chris, then it looks like that whole pack's got up together. So we've got a really good battle for the lead, and we've got a really good battle for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th that's coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, fantastic racing, as you said, and with all the cars jumbled up within that pack, it's given Brzezinski a little bit of a gap out front, but it's not the huge gap that he had before that safety car came out. But what we do have, Martin, is a very busy track with all the cars now clustered together.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems with restarts. You know, the American truism, cautions breed cautions, for a very good reason. When you bunch all 48 remaining cars together and they're not all in speed order, then you do run the risk of problems. And Josh Rogers, the GTE leader there in that white and black for Porsche, is going to have to be very, very cautious of fast cars coming by. He is the class leader. The fact that GT cars are ahead of him, that will always be the case. They're ahead of him on the road. They're not ahead of him on time. He needs to worry about not making a mistake, not being caught out, because he's got a 16-second margin at the moment over the second car in the category. Meanwhile, TDS versus Team WRT, Le Mans Racing veterans versus Le Mans Racing rookies in terms of team. Guido van der Garde has raced at Le Mans before. Kelvin van der Linde has not. Like WRT, he's done a lot of GT racing, but not much at Le Mans in the prototype field.
Yeah, but saying that, he was on the front row of the grid and he actually led for a significant proportion of the race until they had a technical connection failure, which dropped them right back. So now they're back in. But this is a funny thing about Le Mans. You do have problems. You said about, you know, the cars and all the speed thing. I looked at it as an opportunity. When you've got these resets, you get an opportunity to get back in the game if you've had a problem at the beginning. And this is exactly the case for WRT. They haven't dropped their head too much, and now they're racing for 8th position with Guido van der Garde just up ahead.
And it's not hard to imagine they might end up in a top 6 position, which sounds a lot better than 12th or 14th. So, you know, 2016 tells everybody, whoever goes racing anywhere, never give up. Until the checkered flag has flown, it is not over. So there is racing to be done all the way through the field. Kamui Kobayashi, for instance, just 5 seconds behind teammate Sebastian Buemi. So there's a battle, an inter-team battle. It's for 12th position, but it's more than that. It's for being the best of the 2 Toyota cars that remain in the race. Behind him, he's got the number 16 Veloce car, and he will want to get ahead of the 2 Toyotas. So everybody's got a battle on their hands now and for the rest of the 3.5 hours of this race.
Yeah, Eamon Murphy, definitely one to watch over the next few laps, because he is the pro sim driver in that battle for 12th, 13th and 14th. And as we know, Buemi and Kobayashi definitely do not have a lot of sim racing experience. So Murphy will be trying to close in on them. The gap to Kobayashi is 6 seconds. We are on board still with this E-Team WRT car, and just ahead of us there in the distance, you can see that that is Guido van der Garde in the TDS e-racing car. That gives us a better idea of the gap between Guido van der Garde and Kelvin van der Linde, who is in the E-Team WRT car. And some of the viewers may be getting a little bit confused, as you said, Martin, that they all didn't set off in the order that they were originally in terms of position. It's how they approach the line. Yeah. So do just be aware that not everyone you see is going to be battling for position right now, but we'll pick those out for you as the race goes on.
It's exactly as when the red flag falls, it's effectively the cars stop immediately on circuit. Yeah. They come back to the pits, but in the order that they were when the red flag fell. There's a GT car in between, two LMP2s battling. That's the way it restarts.
Well, I was going to say Aitken was 11 seconds behind Brzezinski in the battle for the lead, and that's now dropped to 14.5 seconds. So, as we said, there was a reason that the Rebellion car, the one Rebellion car, had that huge advantage for the lead. And there's no reason why they can't go and do that again. They're going to have to put in all the hard work to build that gap again. But Kuba Brzezinski is driving very sensibly and is clearly not too frustrated about what's happening. He's already building a gap, Martin.
That's the 16 car, Murphy and Kobayashi. That's the first victim. Now, you said about Sebastian Buemi not having the most experience, but he is the man who set the fastest race lap just before we went to red, so nothing wrong with his speed in the car an hour ago. And so Murphy for Veloci Esports 2, that car he shares with Stoffel van Dorn, who did such great work in that car early in the race. And the battle's not done yet, is it?
Oh, he's gone in too hot there.
Kobayashi,
Yep,
you saw Kobayashi in the inset just fighting, a big smile on his face. Yes, he went in too deep, he went off. I won that mental battle for superiority. And again, you know, for Kobayashi, he may well know who the driver is behind him and not know the name, i.e. he knows that he's a sim guy rather than a real world guy, and so, you know, that's even better. You hold off a guy who's supposed to be better at you than this.
Yeah, but he also, Kobayashi, knows where to brake and what you have to do, and the point where you have to bail out of it if it is an attack. And
yeah.
Murphy, in that respect, he was offline coming through the right-hander, and he just then couldn't get the car stopped and carried too much speed into the left.
So, big smile on the face of Kamui Kobayashi. It's the little battles sometimes, isn't it? And here you go, Murphy comes the long way round in Indy and just can't get the car back. And that, knowing there's no injuries, makes Kamui Kobayashi grin. Race continues towards the 3.5 hours left mark. We've had a couple of minutes over 60 minutes of red flag in 2 periods. So of the 20.5 hours so far, we've had 19.5 hours of green flag racing. For any Le Mans 24 hours in good conditions, that is still a very high percentage of green flag racing, because of course we don't have slow zones here for damage, for debris. We don't have safety cars except to restart us after a red flag. So it's either red or green. It's either stop or go. There's no intermediate, is there?
I do just want to pick up, actually, in terms of the fastest lap. I think that actually was set by Yuri Kazdorp on lap 291. And that would be no surprise, because Yuri Kazdorp is one of the best on this grid. He's one of the tallest as well, but he's been racing in things like the R-Factor GT Pro Series, the Race All-Star Esports Series as well, and the SRC Virtual Endurance Championship all this season. So no surprise to see him in that Toyota going fastest. And even if they don't get a good result, that is something they can take away from this race, Martin.
You're absolutely right about that. I didn't read my timing screen correctly. It was Yuri Kazdorp on lap 291. We're now on lap 312, 11:30 Central European Summertime.
He said about the fact that there was limited things to slow them down. It's just a red flag at the moment. The prediction is that they'll do a total of 394 laps at the end of this race. But the real life record is 397 laps in 2010.
Wow.
And that was the quickest race on record up till now over a 24-hour period. So they're not quite going to be able to achieve that. They're looking at it right now.
But we are looking at one of the furthest races ever run, at least at the moment, in Le Mans 24-hour history. And we've also got our top 3 covered by just 20 seconds in in LMP2, and our lead battle 15 seconds. Josh Rogers leading from the number 80 Corvette, and that Corvette with Risto Capet, the Estonian driver, still giving chase. Third place, Jeremy Bouteloup, the 18-year-old Porsche driver in car number 92. Richard Westbrook in 4th place, the 95 Aston Martin. Dempsey Proton's 88 car back up to 5th in class after leading yesterday afternoon. Dennis Lin 6th in the factory Corvette, their top car, 64. And then the battle behind them Nicky Katzberg closing down the 71 Ferrari. That's been driven by Arno Solito. So Katzberg is right behind him now, towing up behind that car. And Lorito not far behind Dennis Olsen either. So those three cars, that's a battle for position. Dennis Olsen in the Team Project One purple 57 car, then the Ferrari, then the Dempsey Proton car, that's Van Doran, and then you have got the Corvette of Nicky Katzberg. So the black and grey Porsche is actually ahead of this battle in the standings, but right in the thick of it on the road. He's trying to get by these cars, but of course they're class rivals. They're going basically at the same speed. So the purple car, Team Project One, Dennis Olsen, the Dane. Lorito in the Ferrari, you can see him at the top. Nicky Katzberg, the Dutchman, in that Corvette, picking up the tow from the Dempsey Proton car and trying to get by him. Dramatic three-way battle for 7th place in GT, with the car that is currently in 5th position in the middle of it. That's the black and grey Dempsey Proton Porsche. Purple Porsche up ahead, the Wins livery car. That is Dennis Olsen for Team Project One. He is in 7th place. In 8th place is Arno Lorito in the red Ferrari number 71, right behind him. Then you've got the Dempsey Proton car 88, that's 5th place overall, and he is a bit of a fly in the ointment for Nicky Katzberg in the yellow 63 Corvette. That's the car that's in 8th place, and he can't get to the Ferrari Porsche battle until he can get by the 5th place Porsche that's right in front of him. So for all of these drivers, they're in a bit of a tricky situation. And actually, the one who's most likely to come off badly, Anna McNish, is Kevin Van Doren in the Dempsey Proton car, because he's ahead of these guys on the leaderboard, but stuck in the middle of this three-way battle for position. He doesn't want to be there, but he doesn't want to slow down and then catch them up again and have to pass all three of them. Ideally, he'll try and pick them off down the straight, but is that going to happen? Is that possible? Can he do that in this tow?
Well, we'll find out just in a second, but he certainly doesn't want to drop behind, because if the other two start scrapping and he gets involved in their incident, then it takes him out of the position as well. So he is going down the inside into the chicane, and as you say, I think he'll just try and pick them off in a one-by-one. It's the safest thing, but you can see that now the Corvette's trying to go down the inside of both of them. This is exactly what he doesn't need. Is the Corvette used the draft of both cars to slipstream. Now that was clean in the end, but ultimately I'm sure that was a moment where he was sort of squeezing himself into the seat, just hoping that it didn't go wrong.
I tell you what, I know Nicky Katzberg really well. He was going, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I have got this. But now here back past him comes the Porsche, but again, he'll use the side draft, but he's hung out to dry because the Porsche tucks in behind the 57 Porsche, so Katzberg's on his own. He's getting a little bit of a side tow, but not enough. However, he has moved up the queue. He did them both, but then he'd overcommitted. The Porsche got back by him, but he has at least got position over the Ferrari, so it's one up there. He's found a ladder. Nicky Katzberg has moved up the order, but you can see he's very intent on moving further forward and trying to attack Dennis Lind in that, beg pardon, Dennis Olsen, too many Dennises, in that purple Porsche, and through goes the Dempsey Proton car. So Kevin Van Doren has got himself out of harm's way and overcommits himself into the gravel. Wow, he's not making this easy, is he?
Definitely not, and some great battles also that could be developing as well. I'll keep an eye on those. Kazagon catching Al Khalifa for 4th place in the LMP2 class, and Van der Linde also catching 10 board as well, so we'll keep an eye on those.
Well, lots of exciting racing going on. Of course, most of the Ferrari AF Corsa drivers are in the Museo Ferrari at Maranello, part of the big factory setup. The GT team have got their entire GT race setup in one of the big rooms there at Maranello, and there is a view on the right-hand side of that historic Ferrari collection. We'll be going there. There's the This is basically what you see behind the scenes in every World Endurance garage. You see those facing panels looking out into the garage. Normally there shouldn't be a car in there, but that's where the cars would be. That's where our sim rigs are. But this is exactly what you would see in the garage, were you allowed behind the scenes, as Alan and I get the privilege to do, and walk through. That's the bays where the cars would normally be worked on. So they brought the whole garage setup into this big room at Maranello, and this is where most of their drivers are racing from. And Chris, you can see, as you might expect with Ferrari, the rigs look like they're pretty state-of-the-art.
Very, very good. And I really like this idea of having that garage set up, because it just makes the drivers feel like they are racing at Le Mans. When they jump out, as we can see there looking around the garage, when they jump out of the rig, they're into a garage, and that's certainly something that would make them feel at home. And
there in the middle, that's the inspiration, isn't it? That's a class-winning GTE Pro trophy from Le Mans. Ferrari with lots of success in Le Mans in recent years, outright wins and the World Championship as well a couple of years ago. So yeah, there's always that little extra bit of motivation when you're racing for Ferrari at Ferrari. I mean, just that sentence, who's ever done that? Who's ever raced for Ferrari at Ferrari? Tested at Maranello or Fiorano, yes. Raced, never.
Unique situation.
That's a world first.
That just goes to show how unique this event is.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, unprecedented, and we continue to push the barriers, Alan.
We certainly do. One person continued to push a barrier. Kelvin van der Linde's just overtaken Ten Voord now, and so he's up to 8th position. However, to get any further up, he's got a little bit of work to do. So that battle, I think it's probably as high as the WRT car is going to get, unless there's something else goes on. But the battle for 5th, 6th and 7th in LMP2 still is raging like this one we're watching on screen now.
Yeah, we're looking at the GT battle, and you saw the Dempsey Proton car there just starting to pull out. He's trying to get back past the Wins Porsche. He's on the left-hand side. Nicky Katzberg, which way is he going? He's going with the Dempsey Proton car. That will make those two quicker than the 57 car. They're on the inside line. Katzberg bails. Through goes the Dempsey Proton car. But Katzberg now has his victim, well, in his air intake, never mind in his sights. He's almost got the purple Porsche. He definitely has got it breathing into his air intakes. So now he is perfectly placed. Right on board with Nicky Katzberg. Where are you going to make your pass? How soon do you commit to Mulsanne corner? And how soon does the defensive move come? He sends him, he dummies him, but again, there wasn't quite enough room there. So maybe up to Mulsanne corner wasn't enough room. Maybe down towards Indianapolis there is. And again, it's a two-car slipstream, so the Wins car gets a slight effect, Katzberg gets a bit more, but when he pulls out, now he's cutting his own air. He's still in the turbulence. When he breaks the wake, that's when he stops gaining any advantage. The side toe still works, but it moves the cars closer together, so you've got to actively steer away from the car beside you. Katzberg's on the inside. Oh, and a huge moment there. Dennis Olsen and Nicky Katzberg touch. Full code brown for both, and Dennis Olsen slides out wide. That was close, Alan. And in the real world, that might have had a very different ending.
Well, I don't know. I think both of them, from the moment they touched into the right-hander there, they recovered it fantastically well. I expected Olsen to disappear off into the gravel, but he didn't. Kept it onto the circuit, and you know, it was aggressive by both of them. And clearly, Olsen's not 100% happy by the flashing of lights afterwards. He's pulled in, and he's turned in a little bit early actually to try and block off Katzberg, and then there was the touch. Already, Katzberg was too committed not to sort of get out of it. Because at that moment there's very little he could do. He should have got out of it now if he's going to, and then it was quite an aggressive turnover there by Olsen, and ultimately he was the one that came off slightly worse out of it, but could have been much worse.
You can take the boy out of the touring car, but you can't take the touring car racer out of the boy. Nicky Katzberg, Robbins Racing, even at 200 odd miles an hour into Mulsanne corner. Fantastic action. Oh, there's trouble.
Now, I think this might be the battle for fourth, because we got Casabon, Al Khalifa, and Pierre Gasly as well, and they're split by just over 3 seconds.
Yeah, so. and that's the opportunity for the Kelvin van der Linde WRT car in 8th. If it all goes wrong with these three, they could lose a lap.
Yeah, they need to lose a lap at the end. At this particular battle, though, is down from 4th until 7th, because Rougier is just a few seconds behind as well to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, Rougier on the back of the queue in the number 3 Rebellion Williams eSport car. We're on board in 6th position. The 24 car Pierre Gasly, and he is chasing down Isa bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, and he is the Bahraini driver in the 2Cs Motorsport team. And the real world endurance calendar is due to finish in Bahrain in December. All things being equal and possible. Certainly that is the intention at the moment. So 31 car Thierry Casabon just took that 4th place, and again more action here. This is the Corvette that's in 2nd place in GT, or was and still is, Risto Capet, and Jeremy Bouteloup in the 92 Porsche in 3rd. That's not one of these cars, but let me go 3 wide. This is a Ferrari trying to get by the 57 Team Project 1 car for 8th. Who's going to blink first here? Oh, three-way squeeze, and that's a huge drama for Risto Capet. The 2nd place car is in the barriers on both sides. He's gone hard-shouldered the central reservation, and that must earn a drive-through penalty, surely, for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, it's David Perel in that Ferrari, and seemed intentional to me.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he moved left in the middle of the straight where there was already not just one, but 2 cars. And so for me, it was a penalty for Ferrari. Yeah, that's It was very avoidable, shall we say that?
Yeah, Lorito in the 71, he squeezes the Porsche to try and get the place, neglecting the fact that there was another car there. Now, again, in the periphery, he may not have seen it. In the real world, you couldn't fail to hear the Corvette side exhaust bellowing beside you there.
Yeah, but even in the virtual world, you know that there's a car you're scrapping with, because you're scrapping with him halfway down the straight just before it.
Well, the Ferrari continues for the moment in 8th, the Porsche down to 9th, and trouble for our 2nd place car. Well, a run into Indianapolis from the Porsche driver Dennis Olsen puts him back up ahead of the Ferrari. But I don't think we've seen the end of that incident. I'm sure that our race director will have a word or two to say about that for the driver of the 71 car. Well, Arnaud Lorito really caused an awful lot of trouble there.
It's being replayed now, I'm sure, within race control. And the interesting thing is, with this virtual race control, they can do it in so many different angles that you couldn't see in real life. So it takes out all the elements of question marks, which is very unfortunate if you're the driver that's maybe on the wrong side of it.
I think even that one view that we had, it'd be really hard to argue that it wasn't his fault. Really, really hard.
Well, it was his fault.
Yes. And that's why. Risto Capet continues, has not come into the pits, but there is Risto Capet's Corvette, bounced off. The Ferrari moves across, pushes the Porsche into the Corvette. Where's the Corvette going? He's got no chance there. Not expecting that to happen. The Ferrari basically moved from the right-hand lane through the center lane to try and cut off the Porsche. Didn't succeed in cutting off the Porsche, just succeeded in pushing him into the Corvette. So Ferrari giving the place back. I don't think Arnaud Lorito, that's really going to hold much sway with race control. I sense there will be a penalty coming for that. The real question is, Capet is in the pit lane. The real question is, for that 2nd place Corvette, is that any hope of victory gone for them? They were within 30-odd seconds of the race leader, and we now may well see a Porsche 1-2 at the top of the GT leaderboard.
Well, they were within a reasonable chance of fighting for the lead. All that took was that to happen to Josh Rogers, and then that would have been them into the race lead. Yeah. So that's how quickly things can change at Le Mans. And I'm pretty sure the battle for 2nd in our LMP2 class is pretty close as well. I think between Aitken and Pedersen, they seem to be fairly close together as well. I'm not too sure if that's by Collins into the pits or if that's the Rocket Sanchez.
Von der Heide that's just popped into the pits.
So Van der Heide has come in, so too has Antonio Felix.
Information to the pit lane, information to the pit lane. 30-second stop and go penalty on car 71 for causing a multiple collision. 30-second stop and go penalty on car 71 for causing a multiple collision.
Well, Ben Rossiter-Turner, you saw on the right-hand side of that shot with Eduardo Freitas. He's the man who's scrolling through the video footage. Don't think they had to scroll very far, did they?
No, I mean, one look at that, and I think they would have made their minds up. They would have had a few more looked at taking advantage of all the angles that they had. But we have to wait and see what that's done for IHG. They're actually in the pit lane now, so we'll see how long it takes for them to get back out again. But that was the highest running Ferrari, and
yes,
they're in danger of not having any cars in the top 10.
RHG back out of the pit lane, so it wasn't a long stop, but was it a schedule? Did they need to come in for fuel then anyway? They may not be entirely on exactly the same number of laps of fuel stops as the others, because of course don't forget that they had that accident earlier where Catherine Legg's car hit them. When the car came in, they may well have topped up with fuel then, so they may be out of kilter with their rivals. They may have needed that stop anyway, or they may have combined a slightly shorter run with some damage repairs. Either way, they're back out on track and racing again. Well, there is, in the inset, Risto Capit in the RHG Corvette. Alain Manouche has been delving into the software. Did they need a stop then, or was that forced? They did.
I think they needed a stop then because they had done 19 laps, and remember the red flag in the 3 safety car laps at the beginning, so therefore it kind of sits in nicely with their 15-lap stints.
I mean, they're going to be wondering, can we catch a break in this race? What is it we've got against us? Because everyone seems to, it's like they've got a target on the side and back of their car, and the front as well, but everyone seems to be going into them. They've been in the wrong place, wrong time on multiple occasions in this race.
At least 2 major incidents where the car has been punted into the barriers through absolutely no fault of their own, and yet still racing hard for a podium finish and potentially a win in the GT class. So that is a really solid effort, and even more, I'm sure Romain Grosjean is wishing that he was up to speed enough to justify putting himself in this team. We heard from him earlier this morning saying how proud he is of what a great job they're doing and how itchy feet he's getting to get back to racing. The Bicoles number 4 car, watching now, closing in. This is Jesper Pedersen chasing down Jack Aitken. The gap now under 2 seconds. That looks like it's almost under 1 second. 1.8 at the last split. That's not a 1.8 second gap yet, is it?
Is the car up ahead?
He's got traffic in between. It is, I suppose, about 2 seconds.
Jesper Pedersen closing in.
There you go. He caught a break because the car between them dived into the pit lane.
Got a break, but it kind of distracted him a little bit, and he went too deep into the chicane.
Yeah, kind of, when you see a car, when you're that close to a car and they start going into the pit lane, you almost follow them in.
Now, see, that's what I would do. I'm not expecting that from a sim pro like you. But yeah, most of the coffee has arrived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay the bill? He's on you, Alan?
Well, I'm not, because none arrived on my desk. What's going on with that then? Yeah, the imminent arrival of Ben Constantinou is bringing almost everybody some coffee rather thoughtfully. So lots of action going on then. Back at the front of the field, here is our second place car, Jack Aitken for Rebellion at Williams Esports. And Jesper Pedersen closing in from behind. Our pole sitters Bicoles. They've been in and out, up and down the order like the Assyrian Empire, but they are still very firmly in contention. Under 2 seconds the gap, and it is coming down. Creeping closer is Jesper Pedersen. Now don't forget, Williams number 1 that leads, Kuba Brzezinski. Williams number 13 that's second, Jack Aitken, will stop a lap apart. But the Bicoles car of Jesper Pedersen is about 4 laps later in its imminence in the pits than the second of the Williams is the number 13 car. So 3 hours to go. That may have a very significant effect at the end of the race on who can get track position by using clever pit strategy. And Alan is well versed in these things and understands it, and I always get it completely the wrong way around, so we'll leave him to explain that a little later. For Amos Laurito in the 71 Ferrari, has he served his penalty? He's down in 9th place. Yes, this is outlap, so he served his penalty for punting off the 57 Porsche and the GR8 Corvette, and he's now coming under pressure from, oh, it's the other Corvette, having been duffed up earlier on by the car of Nicky Katzberg. It is now, it's not in fact the other Corvette, it is the same Corvette. It is a 63 car that Nicky Katzberg was driving, but it is now being driven by Alex Voss, his teammate. So the same car is now coming up behind the Ferrari to try and retake that position again. So let's hope that the GR8 Corvette is nowhere nearby.
Yeah, let's hope that he behaves himself a little bit more this time. Laurito wasn't really affected in terms of position there, but of course was in a great battle, that three-way fight that we were following for a long time, and Laurito just losing himself the chance at getting further up the top 10. He was fighting for around 6th or 7th.
Well, yeah, don't forget when that battle started, he was 7th. He's now down in 9th and being chased by the 10th place Corvette, which was in front of him before it stopped for pits. And now he's been in the pits recently, but that was for the penalty, so he will need fuel before the Corvette does again. So then he is in danger potentially of dropping right to the back of that group. The good news for him is the next car in the queue, Darren Turner's 98 Aston, is a further lap behind, so it'll take another driving error and subsequent penalty for him to lose that amount of time.
Just looking at the times here from Brzezinski, Aitken, Pedersen, those gaps have not changed for a very long time now. So you've got the 22 seconds, 23 seconds between Brzezinski and Aitken, and then a further 3 seconds back to Pedersen, who's 25 seconds back from the leader. It's been like that for a number of laps. And
they're all in the pits together. So much for my one will stop, and then one will stop a bit later. They've never come into the pits on the same lap today. So what has forced that? Because number 1 and number 13, number 1 would stop first, number 13 would take the lead, number 1 would come back out into the lead when number 13 stopped. Apart from the last pit stop when number 13 didn't get into the lead ahead of number 1.
I'd say between first and second, that's probably coincident, or they're both Rebellion teams, so maybe on the same strategy. But I reckon Pedersen, the Bicolis team, was saying as soon as you see Aitken come in, just come in with him.
But my point is, either the number 1 car has gone another lap longer, or the number 13 car has gone a lap shorter, because they were not stopping on the last lap, on the same lap before we had the red flag.
Aitken's done 9 laps, and the 1 has done 10 laps.
And how many did number 4 do?
Now you're asking technical questions.
Yeah.
Remember that the cars get totally reset when they go back out after the red flag. New tyres and a new tank of fuel. So they aren't staggered anymore. They can do what they need to do. Interesting that they only managed 9 laps, though, in one of those cars.
Well, they're pushing now. And it could be that they're on the verge of not easily into 10. Remember the warming up laps as well, in terms of that. So it does change things very slightly there. You can actually save a heck of a lot of fuel on pace car laps, and it's still being run down, but there's ways to actually not use additional fuel.
Good morning, almost good afternoon, Ben Constantinos. Are you feeling refreshed?
I am feeling refreshed. My voice doesn't sound it, though.
No, your shirt looks fresher than you do. New day, clean shirt, same old tired vocal cords.
Yeah, we need to get them a bit warmed up, I think, because they are sounding a bit ropey this morning. But looking forward to this one. I was kind of happy when I woke up this morning and saw there was a red flag, because it meant that suddenly there was battles going on. I guess it was starting to stretch out, as any 24-hour race would do. And you kind of, at some points in races, you do. I know drivers don't, but from the media and the entertainment perspective, we go, can we have a safety car now, just to close the field up a little bit?
Well, it depends which side of the fence you're on. If you're leading, you definitely don't want to. If you're second, then you definitely do. But my sort of view on this is that maybe not necessarily through one race, but through your career, it's like you know, penalties in football. that they kind of go against you sometimes, they come with you sometimes. And I've won races because it's gone in my favour, and I've lost races because it's gone against me. It's just the way you have to do it.
Yeah, I remember Michael Andretti talking about that at one stage when he lost the lead of an IndyCar race. He said, you know, you win as often as you lose in cautions, and it's just part of the game, you know. Random stuff happens, and random stuff happens in the game as well. We talked about that yesterday. You know, we talk about the time it takes to do a fuel stop and a fuel and a tyre stop, but there is a randomizer as well. There can be a random time delay of up to 1.6 seconds in a fuel stop, up to 2 seconds in a tyre stop. It won't happen to every car in any race, in every race. It might not happen to you at all. Your pit crew might be randomly perfect all the way through. It might randomly not be, and that sort of reflects real life as well. No matter how well rehearsed you are, sometimes things go wrong. Wheel nuts do stick, even in the best teams. So, you know, like, again, as in the real world, so in this race, things happen randomly, like other people shunting a car into you and banging you off into the barriers. You know, this is the world of racing.
I mean, speaking of random things happening, I remember racing in the British Championships and karting back in 2010, and I was running second in the final round of the season in the final, and the leader flicked a cone up and it snapped my axle in half. Ooh, there you go. How about that for a bit of... it was Jessica Hawkins who was leading as well. Someone that might be a familiar name to some of you. To some of the viewers as well.
We've got a mega battle here. Mark Gassner in the bottom picture. We've got Jesper Pedersen in the top picture, although that picture's now disappeared. And this is the battle for second. Rebellion Williams Esports versus By-Collars Burst Esports, the car that was on the pole position. Jesper Pedersen was one of the reasons why this car lost a bit of time, having had a sim rig-related issue halfway through his stint in the middle of the night, and it looked as though by being about a minute and a half back that he wouldn't be able to catch these two until the red flag came out. And now we've got a real battle on our hands, as they also need to get through a little bit of slower LMP traffic. Actually easier to get through GT traffic than it is to get through LMP traffic.